This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors.
Whether we're talking about our dedication to preventing and restoring power outages, our pursuit of safety, or providing the best member experience possible, we are relentless in serving our communities.
Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit ExcelsiorCitizen.com today.
Ready? All right. We're going to call the meeting to order. This time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. First by Darren, second by Rick. All those in favor? That passes 7-0. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. This time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
First by Troy. Second by Darren. All those in favor? That passes 7-0. All right, next up, Employee of the Month, Dr. Bullingmore.
If it pleases the board, we would like to recognize Ms. Kim Curtis, the district social worker, as the classified employee of the month. Kim does the job of multiple people and continually works to meet the various needs of all of our students. She works hard to collect resources for our community and has been instrumental in ensuring we have a variety of mental health supports in our buildings. The impact she makes on a day-to-day basis cannot be adequately measured. Her dedication to this community and the students and parents we serve is unparalleled, and we are so lucky to have her here in Excelsior Springs. So congratulations to Kim Curtis.
All right, next up is the MSBA delegate report. Darren.
But we got a fun video.
Welcome to the February edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin with a look back at the governor's State of the State address last month. On January 24th, Governor Parson delivered his annual State of the State address, which laid out his legislative agenda. Putting people first was the theme of Governor Parson's address. His annual speech to the state legislature marks his final one as Missouri's 57th governor. Education was once again a focus. During his speech, the governor detailed the progress his administration has made in education funding, teacher pay, and workforce development.
And this year, as we propose our final priorities as governor, there is no turning back. We know that guaranteeing Missouri's strong foundation starts with a quality education in our children. This year, we will once again fully fund the K-12 foundation formula with an additional $120 million over last year's level, and we will also fully fund transportation across the state of Missouri.
In addition to fully funding the Education Foundation formula, the governor also wants a $4 million increase in state funding to boost teacher pay.
This year, to do our part on teacher pay, we are including funding to increase teacher pay baseline, increase teacher baseline pay to $40,000 per year. This represents a $15,000 increase for teacher pay during our administration.
There are many other issues being considered in the current session of the General Assembly that are of great interest to MSBA and school board members throughout the state. As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on the developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, through critical issue alerts and periodic webinars. We urge you to stay in contact with your legislators during the session and communicate to them the impact legislation will have on your school district. Don't miss your chance to visit your legislator at the Capitol during MSBA's Advocacy Day. Known formerly as Legislative Forum, Advocacy Day is scheduled for April 9th in Jefferson City. The event will be preceded by a spring virtual meeting on March 13th and lunch and learn sessions on Fridays to provide legislative updates on the issues that matter to you. Check the MSBA website for registration information for all of these events. MSBA is also pleased to sponsor School Board Recognition Month in March, as proclaimed by Governor Parson. It's a great opportunity for school districts and communities to recognize the great work of school board members and the important role local boards of education play as leaders of our public schools. Visit the MSBA website for ideas to celebrate and materials created to help recognize the important contributions of these men and women and to focus attention on the vital role these public officials play in the education of Missouri's children. On January 29th, a webinar co-presented by the Missouri School Boards Association, the Missouri Association of Counties, and the Missouri Municipal League was held to educate attendees on the challenges posed by artificial intelligence and how it might impact local elections. Speakers discussed how AI tools, specifically deepfakes, are being used to shape public opinion and impact the democratic process. MSBA Executive Director Melissa Randall said that although misinformation in elections isn't new, AI takes it to another level.
We do have some concerns, like you, with our candidates being subjected to some misinformation and disinformation that's generated by AI. Now, that's not something new. We all know, sitting at this table, there has been a lot of disinformation, especially in recent years, that's been circulated to impact elections, especially local elections. But AI is going to take that to another level, as you both have already reflected on, and it's going to impact school boards just like it is both of your memberships. And so, again, emphasize the importance of us working together to educate our communities about what is a deep fake, how can you do a better job of identifying misinformation and disinformation, whether or not it's generated by AI. We ought to all be tethered to the truth instead of trying to be influenced by stuff that isn't accurate or isn't factual.
The webinar also featured presentations that provided an introduction to AI, a cybersecurity overview, and legal considerations. To view the archived recording of this webinar, visit the AI resources page on the MSBA website. And finally, John McDonald's Center for Education and Safety team will host a 2-day Behavioral Risk Assessment Summit for K-12 school threat management on March 6th and 7th in Columbia. This is an amazing opportunity for individuals and school leadership teams to learn from the leading experts in school safety.
I've supported the response and recovery of 7 school shootings in my career, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of the summit. Our schools continue to see an increase in threats at an alarming rate. Classroom behaviors continue to challenge the learning environment. We can change this trend. We can fix these issues. From prevention to behavioral risk assessment, from threat management to understanding the current trends in school violence, this conference will give you the tools to help make a difference in your community.
If your school team has yet to receive basic behavioral risk assessment training, a free pre-conference training day will be available on March 5th. Visit the MSBA website for more details. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in March for the next MSBA Board Report.
Do you have anything further, Darren?
No, sir.
We have no visitors for the evening, so we'll move on to Section F, Cabinet Reports. First up is Dr. Everett with Human Services.
Okay, I just have a couple things to report on this month. I wanted to let you know that the Clay County Children's Fund grant application is open, and so, this last year that we received just over $1 million from that Clay County Children's Fund grant to do a lot of the work that happens in things that are under my umbrella. So a lot of our social emotional learning, mental health support, positive behavior interventions, those types of things are all funded with that grant. So it looks like we're going to have the opportunity to probably get roughly the same amount of funding, if maybe not a little bit more. Our counselors and administrators, and we've been really working to develop a strategic plan to show how we can really utilize the funding from that grant over the next couple of years to provide more and more supports in our buildings. So that we are working on that application this month, and so in the next month or so I should be able to show you what we are proposing and asking for from the grant, and then that grant is actually funded in May, and then we will receive that money starting in July. So I'll just keep you updated as that funding comes through. A big piece of that is our panorama data, and our buildings have just killed it this year with giving those surveys. So we did the second of our 3 surveys for the year in January, even with all the snow days. They managed to get 99% completion rate. And so that is not just merely like important to say we checked the box and surveyed all these kiddos. What's amazing is this year our buildings are really using Panorama to the full capabilities to develop interventions that really help our kids on an individual level. So it takes their academics, their behavior, their social emotional, what they feel about themselves, as well as their attendance data, and then helps them create targeted interventions for our kids. So the fact that we have 99% of our students, we have data for them in there is really key for our buildings to be able to give good interventions. So I just am very proud of the work that our teachers and administrators and counselors have done to really get that data going. It shows that they're valuing it, the fact that they really work so hard to get students to take those. Another thing that I'm really excited about is we are piloting the Character Strong social emotional learning curriculum in our elementary schools right now. That would be another thing that is a research-based national curriculum for our counselors and our building teachers to use, and that would be funded through the Children's Fund grant as well. So we have 8 teachers through Elkhorn, Lewis, and Cornerstone that are piloting that from January 16th to April 19th. And preliminary, they're loving it. What's great about it is it's completely created for them. Teachers don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's lessons, there's videos, there's songs. You can hear kiddos singing the songs in the buildings when you're in. So I'm excited to see what their overall reactions are when we're done, but that would be a really great direction for us to be able to have strong counseling curriculum in place that is equitable at all of our buildings. So that is going right now. Another piece that is happening in the Human Services Department is we are really working as a district to shore up our 504 practices and making sure that buildings are doing things correctly and equitably and using the same processes. And what we've kind of determined early this school year is we were kind of all over the place. With some places where you're doing everything digital and some we're doing everything on paper. And so we've been working with our Casey Lace advocacy group, and our Quinn Mundorf has been giving us a lot of training to help make sure that we really truly understand all the basics behind the 504 plans, and that our building staff are implementing them and writing them with fidelity. So that's something that's work that is happening at all of our buildings right now. So I thought it was worth sharing with you. That's all I got.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, operations, Dr. Martol.
That pleases the board, give some updates from operations across the district. So safety and security update. So all the buildings have now implemented the Raptor alert system, which allows any staff member or adult in the building to call an alert that would go out to all district devices. So we're excited about that. They're using it for drills, using it for tracking drills. And so I think it's worked really well. Obviously there's always some learning curve when you implement something like that. But I think it's well received. And another thing that Mr. Jeff Kinsey was able to get through a safety and security grant. So we're excited to be using that throughout the district. And then safety film update. I'll actually come back to you on that with an approval for the safety film company and the updates, that safety film that we'll be putting on the elementaries later on tonight. Food services, so we will have the finalist food presentation interviews were held on January 31st. We're finalizing that process and we'll come to you with a presentation and recommendation for the board approval in the next board meeting. So we're excited about that process to come to completion. That's all I have. Oh, actually, we'll do attendance. One more. We'll do a little attendance. So if you look there, as of February 1st, all the attendance is still up at every building and throughout the district. Yay. I will tell you, my own family was in as well with both influenza A and B.
Yes,
Yeah, and maybe Caitlin. It is ravaging all of our buildings right now, both staff and students. I'm hopeful that we're able to keep it in the green as a change, but I know we're doing everything we can. But if kids are sick, we can't have it in the building because it's just a cycle that continues to perpetuate itself. So still in the green now. The principals and staff and their attendance committees are doing a great job, so I commend them for all the hard work they're doing and the emphasis they're putting on being at school every day so we can learn the amazing things we're working on, and we'll see how the flu hits us moving forward. It's done.
Question about Raptor.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Question about Raptors.
Yeah.
We moved off real quick. I know we were having like signal problems earlier on. Are we still struggling with all that, like with the devices, or are these district-only devices?
I haven't heard anything about signal issues. I know early on at Cornerstone we were because you build a bomb shelter, it doesn't get very good service in there. But the tech department the last 2 years has worked really hard about getting extra servers and modems in there. Staff members can add it to any of their devices. So I have it on my phones, they can have it on their iPad, they can have their personal phone, they can add it on anything that we want. We can only make them add it on a district device, but I think they all have it on their personal devices too. And I know we've used it at a couple instances, and you can push a hold in place, and then a teacher can message right in that app to the administrator. So it's very useful. We've used it multiple times throughout the buildings. It gets used for all the drills and it goes throughout. So I think it's a great way. Another layer, it's not replacing anything, it's another layer for us to try and keep our kids and staff safe, with changing times. And then we'll have the other one with the safety film to approve later on, which is another layer we're trying to add. So
are we addressing that issue at the new Lewis too, since we had the issue at Cornerstone?
Yeah, the new Lewis construction, we will not have all those windows in the hallways, and then the exterior is already covered, so we'll be good there.
I mean, the signal problem.
Yeah, John Coleman with the tech is aware of that, and they'll be working with them as well.
And we say that, right, until it opens, we have to
Yeah,
test.
exactly. But until we try and have a cell phone in a bomb shelter again.
Correct, yeah. But if so, at least we're prepared and we know it's coming, so we'll be able to look out for it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, next up, superintendent report, Dr. Collins.
I want to just give a quick update. Last month we talked about the district leadership team meeting, so I just wanted to give a kind of a summary. So we had administrators from all over the district, teachers, classified employees all came in to try to get representation from all over the district and ask them about our calendar, which we approved last month, but also talk about what's important with our salary and our benefits. And so we wanted to evaluate that. I wanted to just give you some of the feedback that came out of that meeting. This is coming from the employees. They would prefer to see money added to the base. They wanted to see us continue to pay for health benefits, dental, and life. Okay, so those are free benefits that we provide. Not all school districts do. A lot of school districts don't do dental and vision. They make it an add-on that you can pay for it. But if we do that, we get a lower rate since we pay for it for everybody. If we make the individuals go get it, it's going to cost about $10 more a month. So it's actually giving them a pretty good benefit if we do it. It's not a huge cost, so I agree we should keep going that direction as long as we can. Health insurance the last couple of years has been around, we've had about a 0% increase, I think 3 years in a row now. That can't continue forever. I anticipate this year being a rough year when it comes to health insurance. I see a big increase probably coming, potentially. But when you average it out over 4 years, you gotta look at it like that sometimes. Starting hourly pay, we talk about $12 an hour starting pay on some of our classified positions. That's not competitive. So I really think $15 an hour is now the new standard. I don't know, jumping from 12 to 15 is financially possible in 1 year, but I want to take some steps towards it. So we're going to take a look at going to $14 an hour as a minimum for classified, and then try to work on it in the subsequent years as we kind of figure out what the market's doing. But we're going to have to continue to remain competitive in those areas because the job market is still extraordinarily tight. So they did like the calendar of 162 days. That was feedback that we received. And of course, they wanted to research the viability of a 4-day week. I've had a lot of questions since that was brought up last month. And I just want to let people know that this where it came from was from this district leadership team. And there were a lot of questions, a lot of interest in at least knowing if it would be good for us or not. At no point did someone say, we're going to do this or we're not going to do that. It's just to figure out, is it something that would even work for us or not? And we're going to decide that down the road. So this isn't going to be for next fall or anything like that. We're going to take serious time, investigate it, report back to the board in a formal presentation, and be able to say, here's the pros, here's the cons. Do we like it? Do we not like it? Interested, not? But that's going to be a year or two out, minimum, right? Because it's a huge deal to change that for the community. And if we do go that direction for whatever reason, let's do it the right way and take all the right steps so everybody's on the same page. Another piece I'd like to add is, I had an interesting topic about professional development and our staff, right? So we have a lot of money spent on professional development. It's actually required by the state. It's a state law that says you have to spend a certain percentage of your budget on professional development. But that does not include principals or administrators. That just includes teachers. So one of the things I did is I actually asked a retired administrator that I know to come in and work with our principals and try to help give them some different perspectives and tools and maybe different ways to look at how they evaluate teachers, how they provide feedback to teachers. And I think it went well. I think all the feedback I got from you guys was that it was well received. And I'm going to probably continue that going into the fall. So I'll probably ask her to come back again. She spent 2 days with our principals and actually went in and did evaluations on our teachers, and then would compare and contrast what our principals rated them so they could see if they were kind of calibrated properly. So I think we need to do more of that because we want to have consistency in between our buildings so that teachers are getting the same type of opportunities and feedback regardless of what building they're in. So I just thought that was an interesting thing to bring up. I do have there's about 8 people so far that have expressed some interest in that 4-day week. So we're going to keep moving forward with that group until we kind of have it solidified, and they'll probably have their first kickoff meeting sometime that works for everyone. On the next page, we've got information here. You know, we run about a $35 million budget. It's right around there and some change. So our goal next year is going to try to put together another $35 million budget. Problem is we're going to have increased personnel costs, increased costs for benefits. We got to tighten our belt in some places, okay? Now we can go above that, but if we do, that's going to eat into our reserves, and I think we're at a spot right now we want to limit that as much as we can. We can't really spend it down too much more before it starts to get uncomfortable. And if we put too much into salaries and benefits, that's something that never goes away, and it compounds itself every year. So we're trying to be very cognizant of that to make sure that we maintain healthy reserves, but at the same time maximize what we're being able to give back to our employees. $8 million is really the key number. We need $8 million in reserves. So just so you guys think of it, you have a checking account, you have a savings account. You got to figure out how much money you need in your savings account, right? Well, ours is $8 million. That's what our savings account has to be so that we can cover payroll, pay all of our bills, and be able to have everything and have a little held back just in case there's emergencies or things we have to do. So I just wanted to give an update on that. I did a little bar graph just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at to date. We're exactly on where we targeted this year, so I think things are going well. I'm hopeful that our revenues actually might be an uptick this year. You always want to underestimate your revenues and overestimate your expenses, and so hopefully we've done that, but we don't know. I will say summer school this year will be on the formula. That'll be the first time our school district's ever been on the foundation formula in the state of Missouri. But previous to this, we've always been a held harmless district, which means we can never get less than what we got in 2005. Well, now that's changed with the state adequacy target. I'm throwing out all kinds of nomenclature here, but what the amount of money the state gives us went up. They went from 6,300 and then 65. It's going to go up to around 70, I think 7,200 in 2 years if the legislature approves it. That adequacy target going up increased how much money we got from the state and bumped us onto the formula. What difference does that make, you might say? Well, it completely changes how we approach things from a finance standpoint. It's going to be, before we never had to really focus on attendance as a revenue generator. It was just attendance is good for kids to learn more. I mean, the more you're in school, the more you're going to learn. So that has always been our push. But there is a real impact to this, and what I would ask, especially not just the board, but everyone in the community, When you say, oh, all you care about is money. Well, no, I care about the kids learning, and I can't do that if I don't have money to pay the staff to do it. So it's a very, again, it's $35 million this community spends each and every year on educating our children. That's what the investment is. And it's our job as a school district to maximize that and make it as efficient as possible to give kids every opportunity to succeed. So I just wanted to kind of review that so people understood why that budget's important and how it's going to be a really big year next year as we transition, because we don't know for sure. So try making a budget of $35 million when you don't know exactly your expenses or any of your revenues. Wish me luck. But we feel good about it. I think it's going to be a really good year for us, so we're excited about that. Do you guys have any questions about that?
Yeah, on the payroll increase, what kind of timeline were you talking about, looking to get up to that 15 mark at least?
I'm not. It would just be 14 would probably be the recommendation coming later this year when we do that, when we do the budget. And where it goes from there, we'll have to look at that year by year. So it'll probably be something that we try to implement at a new school year on our new our budget. Because otherwise it's not planned for. We can't afford to do it mid-year. And we'll just have to see where the minimum keeps going and where our competition is and try to remain competitive.
Am I wrong to think that I thought there was something coming down the line where we had to be at a certain point, at a certain year?
There's a minimum wage. Actually, we're not beholden to a minimum wage as a school district, but it doesn't make sense to pay less than minimum wage. You're not going to get.
No, I thought it was higher.
No, we've always been above the minimum wage. So, but this would actually take it much further than that, but it's just where we're at.
Okay.
Do you think we're on the formula from now on, or do you think we can go back off?
I don't believe we would go back off. I believe so. As long as that SAT keeps going up, it's going to trigger us onto there. I don't see us going back. That's it, sir.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Pardon me. Next up, discussion items. First up is our Lewis Elementary Building Report. Dr. Comstock.
Last spring, I had the opportunity to come and talk to you guys about our building improvement plan, and I'm excited to be back to update you on what we've been working on. So I'm going to start with just a snapshot of our data. This year we started using the STAR assessment, and it has been such a valuable tool for us to help us make instructional decisions and to see where we're at with our learning. As an elementary, we added time to our math block this year, and we've been working at Lewis about being very intentional with how we use that additional time, with the goal in mind of building mathematical thinkers. So from October to December, we were able to grow 46 kids to the meets exceeds expectation category on STAR Math. Our data does show that we have some work to do in the area of reading. We're excited about the students we were able to move to that meets exceeds category, but we know we need to continue to look at our small group instruction so that we can increase that number between here and the end of the year. At our collab with grade levels last Thursday, we spent some time really looking at our growth data, both as a grade level and as individual classes. And put a plan in place at each level to see how we can move kids from the low growth or typical growth into that higher growth category, which is where we need to be. If you take a look up here at Aubrey, this is probably one of the best, most fun pieces of data to talk about. Second quarter, we put an emphasis in on positive office referrals because we really wanted to celebrate the great things our kids are doing. And our staff has done a great job of embracing that. And I know I can speak for Mr. Travis. These are some of the best phone calls to make. There's nothing better than calling home to celebrate the great things our kids are doing. And you can see the look on her face as she's hearing her family members celebrate her. With effective teaching and learning, we have really focused with staff on the importance of consistency and high expectations. We know that we need that for academics as well as behaviors, and that's going to be an essential component of our students' success. The other big shift we've really been working on at Lewis is shifting from using data to gauge to using data to respond. So not only when planning for students, but also when evaluating what we're doing as teachers and principals. It's not always easy to reflect back on what we're doing with an evaluative eye and really think about if what we're doing is leading to high levels of growth. But I couldn't be more proud of the staff and how they're embracing this and working together to grow as educators and to grow kids. Wit and Wisdom has a wealth of high-impact instructional strategies built in, and so we're also really working on incorporating those into the rest of our day in math and science and other subjects so that we can really work on critical thinking, productive struggle, and collaborative learning conversations. One of the best things we've done this year at Lewis is a new and improved Tiger Walk process. And as you know, Tiger Walks are when groups of teachers go into classrooms together with like a specific purpose in mind. And I have to give a big shout out to Mrs. Amy Cook, our instructional coach, because she has done a tremendous job with Tiger Walks. And it has not only been really good for our culture and keeping our culture strong, but it's also been great professional development for teachers. We have great things happening in our classrooms at Lewis, and so one of the things we're also working on is building teacher leaders who are sharing those things with each other. So from the beginning of the year, we've had teachers that are leading professional development, and all of our teachers have been very eager to invite each other in to see what's going on in the classroom. With our new location, we had to really recommit to PBIS and spend time learning what those expectations look like in our temporary location. So we don't have traditional hallways by the trailers, and we've taught our kids that that road that the trailers are on is like an outside sidewalk or an outside hallway. And so we've taught those expectations to treat it as a hallway. Mr. Travis and our PBIS team came up with the idea of creating yard signs with our PBIS expectations. You can see Merrick up there pointing to one of the yard signs. So it's been a great way to post our expectations outside in our outside hallway. Another thing that we knew was going to be really important in our location that we're at right now is keeping teachers connected. And so our Tiger Connections team, which is led by Mrs. Amy Mika and Mrs. LaDonna Vogue, have done a great job keeping that connection a priority. Whether it's planning potlucks for our PD days, instead of going out to eat, everybody's staying together so that we have that time to connect. Fun dress-up days for staff, writing encouraging notes, and planning staff outings. That team has done a great job working on keeping our staff connected and our culture strong. So I couldn't miss an opportunity to brag about this great group of people that you see in the picture up here. They have done a great job as we've moved to our temporary location, and they have really focused on facing every obstacle with a solution-focused attitude. So we're really super excited for our new building and getting to move in there, but we're also taking time to focus on the memories we're making right now as a staff. So it's been a great opportunity to really focus on being a stronger, more united team, and I think we've done a great job. So now, the best part of the show, I want to invite up Marina and Kyle. They are two of our student council members, and they are going to talk to you about some of the work that they have done with student council.
Hi, my name is Kyle. I'm in the fourth grade. I'm on the Lewis Elementary Student Council. This year we sold bluegrams to our friends and teachers. Bluegrams are a sucker decorated to look like a ghost. We raised $172.
My name is Marina and I'm in third grade. I'm also on the Lewis Elementary Student Council. After we raised the money, we brainstormed ideas on what to use the money for. I wanted the money to go somewhere local, so I suggested the animal shelter. We voted and my idea won.
We asked the shelter what they needed. We were able to buy some toys, treats, and food.
I'm excited to see what the student council has to come. Thank you for letting us come talk to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. What everybody's been waiting for, the audit presentation.
Counting,
Please welcome Mr. Brad Steele. Do you ever get the feeling that accounting just isn't given the credit that it deserves?
Every day.
Right?
Every day. Because you guys are the only one that points it out. Everybody else it's just a necessary evil. I just got to get on it.
Well, we gotta make it fun.
Yeah.
I mean, because really, let's be honest.
For you guys don't know, my name's Brad Steele. We performed your audit this year. We've had a couple times on the way over, and weather and everything else got in the way. But I'm gonna go over the audit results. I don't have every single page up there, but I do have some graphs and some things to summarize. But I'll be glad to answer any of your questions as we go through it. We can stop at any time to answer any questions. The first thing I always want to point out is in the independent auditor's report, It states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. It means you had a clean audit. That's what DESI's looking for, that's what your bonding company looks for. Anybody that looks at your audit, that's the first thing they're going to look at. This is your statement of activities on the modified cash basis. You can see there all your governmental activities and expenditures are on the left-hand side, and then the program revenues specifically related to those activities are in the middle, and then the net cost to the district for that activity is on the right-hand side. So you can see there transportation, even though 2.3, almost 2.4 million was spent in transportation, you had reimbursement, so the true cost of the district is about 1.1 million. This is your balance sheet, and you can see there we've got the four funds. Your capital projects fund is what it is. That's where you spend all your capital projects at. That's where all your buildings are being built, all your equipment's going to be purchased out of your capital projects fund, and that's why it's $35 million in there now, because that was the leasehold improvement proceeds coming in for Lewis Elementary and being built. And at the end of at June 30, there was still a lot of that to be spent. The debt service fund, that's where all your bond payments are coming out of, your principal and interest payments for your bonds. Special revenue, that's where the class or certified staff get paid out of, all your benefits, your salaries. That's always, or I won't say always, but 99.9% of the time that's zeroed out. You're allowed to put revenue in there or transfer money over there to zero that out at the end of each year. And then everything else falls in the general fund. This is your fund balance restrictions, committed and assigned. You can see that are restricted. Your debt service is restricted. Your lease certificate proceeds are restricted. And then you have committed capital outlay, which is projects that the board's approved. It just hadn't been spent as of June 30. And then you got assigned in the general fund for your food service and student activities. This is revenues and expenditures. Again, it's by fund, the capital projects, debt service, special revenue, and general fund. Revenues and expenditures, and then you have your transfers and your lease proceeds under other financing sources, and the net change in fund balance there at the bottom. We consider your general fund and your special revenue fund to be your operating funds. That's where your operations come from, and you had a positive 1.3 million in your operations, so that's great. I know that was something that last year at this time when I was back, there was a presentation on trying to keep those reserves where above the 20% level, and that was good. I was glad to see that at the time, and you succeeded on doing that, so that was great. This shows your balances on your debt, your bonds payable, your lease certificates of participation, and then your direct borrowings. The balance, the additions, the retirements during the year, and then the balance as of June 30, 2023. And then at the right-hand side is the principal payments due in 1 year, in the year we're currently in. This shows your bonds payable through maturity on principal and interest payments. This is your lease certificates of participation through principal and interest through maturity. And I thought I had the other debt on here with the, but it's not on there, but it's not near as big as that, but they have principal and interest payments on your direct borrowing as well. The next three are graphs that we put together. This is your revenues by source. So you can see your revenues went up over the last few years, and as a percentage, it's changed a little bit too. Typically, school districts become, your sources of revenue stay the same between local, county, state, federal, and other. Pretty consistent from year to year. The last few years have had a change because of all the federal funds, all the COVID money. So you can see there in the last 2 years, your federal funds went to 18 and 15% where they were 7 and 8 before. And that's changed the sources of funds and where it's coming from. That will probably come back down in the next few years and come back down to where they were before. But that's what's changed the percentages there, which we expect. This is the same type of graph for your expenditures. And you can see there, 70% of your operating budget comes from employee costs. And we're talking about raises and doing different things and tightening your belt. There's only so much tightening you can do without impacting personnel, because it's such a big part of your operating budget. This is probably the most important graph we have. And this is your reserve ratio. So DESI calculates this each year, and it's basically what you have in reserves in your operating funds compared to what you spend in your operating budget. So you can see here you're at 22.99%, which is good. We'd like to see all our schools at 20% or above. And you guys are right at that 20% last year, and you increased it 2%, which is great. And you did that with increasing the expenditures. So even though your expenditures increase, that means your fund balance has to increase even more to keep that percentage up. If you stay your fund balance even, your expenditures increase, your percentage of reserves are going to go down. So it's good to see that to go back up to 22.9%. That was great. And then you have your average daily attendance on the bottom. As again, he said before, if you're back on the formula, this is going to become more and more important. So there, you can see it's kind of leveled out there this year a little bit. So we give an opinion on your financial statements. We also have to give an opinion on your compliance with Missouri laws and regulations. You had a clean opinion on that too. That's your budget, your attendance, your transportation. There's certain things that we have to answer for DESI purposes on that, and you guys had a clean audit as well on that. We do a. We also have to do. We don't look at your internal controls as. We don't give an opinion on your internal controls, but we do look at them as a way to plan for your budget or plan for your audit. And we have material weakness on that. It's the same one you've had every year. You know, when you've got few people in your accounting department, you're going to have segregation duties issue. It's mitigating controls you can put in place to lessen that risk, and you guys have done some of that. We still have to report on that. Because you had over $750,000 in federal expenditures, we also have to get an opinion on your compliance with the federal regulations on federal expenditures. And you had a clean opinion on that as well, so that's good. The items or the programs we tested was a special education cluster and the Education Stabilization Fund, which is some of that COVID federal money that you received. So you can see there's just a summary of the audit results. The unmodified opinion in both financial statement and the federal awards audit, that's what you're looking for. You have the material weaknesses on segregation of duties. That's going to be common because of your size of your accounting department. And then your federal awards, there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, so that's great. One thing I look at, or one thing I point out each time, is the auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee? The answer is no. Some people wonder why that is. Your 99.9% of the school districts in the state is no, because you have to be GAAP basis for that, and most all school districts in the state of Missouri are cash basis, so they're going to be marked no in that as well. There's talks about the segregation of duties and the response. And then the required communications, I went over with Jared all the required communications, and we've dealt with all those. Does anybody have any questions on any of those?
Can you talk a little bit about like what you guys see? How many school districts do you guys represent? So can you give us an idea of how this looks compared to maybe your book of business, relatively speaking, where we stand?
School districts are really unique from an accounting standpoint, you know, but they're also all over the board as far as how much debt do they have? Do they have debt? Do they have it in capital projects or debt service? So what we look at is what we compare to is the reserve ratios. We can see that. We do about close to 40 school districts. And we look at the reserve ratio, and we like to see all our schools at 20% or above. They're not all there, but we like to see them at 20% or above. And we like to see, you know, people paying attention to the reserve ratio, because as you said before, the goal of the school districts is educating kids. You know, that's always been the goal. But you have to have someone that knows about the finance side of things, to knowing what hiccups can come up. What's going to, you know, they're talking about, okay, you're going to be on the formula. What does that mean? And Dr. Tomlinson's looking at it and figuring that out, and that's what you need to have. Because I've been at school districts before where I come in and they're at 18% reserves, and the next time I come in they're at 8, and the board had no idea it went from 18 to 8. And so from where I stand, I like to see, you know, coming in and seeing you guys are talking about finances, where you're at, where your reserve needs to be, because that's an important part of educating the kids, because you have to have good finances to educate the kids. Because if you don't, the education is going to start to suffer. So to answer your question, we looked at the reserve ratio, and you guys are right where we like to see you, at 20% or above. So.
What were your favorite?
Yes. Tonight especially. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Red. Appreciate it. All right, next up is academic services update. Dr. Miller.
I don't know how we're going to follow Brad's seal. I also want to say that I'm going to show you a lot of data, and I'm also fairly stated. That's what I just learned from him. So I'm just kidding. I don't know what that means. Okay. As you guys know, this is my 3rd year here. I've been showing you this consistently every time I'm in front of you. This was my 3-year plan. This is the same one that I interviewed with, and I followed it I'm in the middle of it right now. So if you look at year 3, the focus this year was on interventions. Specifically, what that entails really is our reading success plans and doing small group instruction at the elementary level. And so that's still going to continue to be a focus. So I look forward to bringing you my next 3-year plan, which is really largely going to focus on instruction. The first 3 years, literally, we're building a foundation that we simply didn't have. So now that that's, I think, more in place than it ever has been, I look forward to really meeting the needs of our teachers, basing it on instruction, and continuing the work moving forward that keeps up with everything that has to be done. So I want to talk a little bit about our APR. I know Dr. Tomlinson sent something to you when we first received it. This is something that I think we're especially proud of. Over on the right column, we listed out every district's free and reduced rate. Specifically, typically with free and reduced rate comes with, that typically comes with some additional challenges. So I put those up against each other. We had significant growth this year, and so we actually did quite well on our APR. I think according to our CSIP plan, they recommend that, and I know Troy and I had this conversation, 3 to 5% every year, which is hard when you like to move as quickly as I do. I will say we blew that out of the water with APR. Growth should be incremental to keep up with it, but I am so proud of all of our building leaders and our teachers. The focus really was on student growth, and they've done an outstanding job. So I've got 2 types of data here. I've got STAR data, and then I have MAP data, which is good for me because really the only thing that we had to go on as a district was MAP data, which is frustrating for principals. It's frustrating for teachers to get through the entire year and not know how well you did until basically December when you can talk about it and come out. It's not a very good score to determine if you're doing well or not. Now that we have STAR data, that's an assessment that's given every 8 weeks, so we can track that. And furthermore, that's extra information for me to tell if we're on track with our curriculum and what we need to do. So if you look at this, this is September scores versus November in ELA. Every one of our buildings is growing, so I just wanted to point that out. I'm hoping to have a year's worth of growth to be able to come back and show you. I will say that this graph supports almost identically how we do on the MAP test. So they're very, very similar, and so that leads me to believe that our students this is a very good predictor of how we'll do on the MAP test. So our teachers and our principals continue to push kids in the right direction, and I'm hoping to see more growth. So I've talked to you a lot about the reading success plans. Big score is not good. Just say this is one of those graphs where you want a smaller number. This represents per building at the elementary level how many kids are below the 25th percentile or are receiving a reading success plan. So you can see it tells a different story per building, but I really look at this to determine which building needs the most. So if you look, Lewis has a lot of their grade levels are completely different than, say, Elkhorn. Elkhorn's 5th grade has a completely different set of needs than Cornerstone's 5th grade. I also want to point out Elkhorn's a smaller building, and these are numbers of students. So that's one of the reasons why some of your bigger buildings will have a higher number. This is what a teacher looks at when they interpret STAR data. I happen to be at a professional development day at Lewis, and I sat next to Mr. Casey, and they were walking through how to pull data. Each one of these circles represents a kid in Mr. Casey's class. So if you look far on the left, those are low growth with lower achieving, and higher growth with higher achieving is over onto the right. So basically you want your kids to grow as much as possible. But your higher achieving kids, you want them to grow as much as you want your lower achieving kids. All kids grow. Ironically, the two kids over here on the left, Mr. K, I happen to be sitting next to him and he's like, that's so weird, these are my gifted kids. Which is one of the things that I always talk to you guys. If you're in a gifted class, you have just as much right to grow and get better, even if you're gifted, than our lower kids do. So gifted kids are really difficult to teach and they're difficult to push within their grade level. You have to do a lot of differentiation work because they're so advanced. But this has been huge in individualizing a specific plan for each kid. I'm going to show now some comparisons with state data. So this is Excelsior Springs, and then the black line is compared to state, and a bottom, this is specific to ELA. We are as close to state average as we can get. As you guys know, I will never tell you I strive to be above state average. I think that's ridiculous and it's a low bar. It's unacceptable to say, man, I hope to one day be average. I didn't do that for my daughter. I didn't raise an average daughter, and I think all of us who have kids don't want average kids. So that's where we're at. I'm not typically happy, or I won't be happy until we're well above 50% proficient in advance. So speaking of proficient in advance, this is how we performed over the last 3 years with MAP testing. They switched it up, so not all of these are like items, just to point that out, but it is something that I track. This is a district comparison for like schools in our area. On there I've got us, I've got Smithville, Kearney, Platte County, and then Richmond just for comparison. These can be due to curricular changes. What I use this chart for is to really look at if everybody went down in 7th grade, perhaps it was a testing issue with the assessment, or that's why I track that data. Also, I'm highly competitive and I really want to beat them real bad. So, math percentile rank, this is growth by building. Thanks, Albert. This is math. Now, one of the interesting things about math that I've seen is that our students perform much better on the STAR assessment than they do on the MAP test. So what that tells us is our kids have the skills and the ability, but when it comes time to take the MAP test, they underperform. So I'm going to have a conversation with the administrators about working on things like test anxiety, making sure they know how to work a calculator, making sure that they can go through the correct tools. I think that's a big block for a lot of our students that we're going to work on. Because they're demonstrating, I was actually surprised our math scores are higher in STAR than I thought they would be, because all we had to base it on before was the MAP assessment. This is again like comparison with state and us. We've done a lot of work with Algebra 1. My first year here, I think I stood before you, and I'll show you another graph that said I was personally embarrassed about our Algebra 1 scores, and they have risen significantly. They took a little bit of a dip this year. 8th grade will always be low because, again, they pull out those Algebra 1 kids. So in 8th grade, and you'll see the state takes a dip as well, all of those 8th graders taking Algebra 1, that counts towards high school scores, and so that's always going to go down. If you look here, this is a 3-year comparison. This is just proficient and advanced for math. So again, look at the Algebra 1 scores from my first year to here. They've done a lot of work. The math teachers adopted a new curriculum, and it's been really good. It's a pre-AP curriculum that has been outstanding. Here's our math scores spread out over different districts. Again, I look for trends, and there really aren't a lot here. You can really see between our districts and other districts. Richmond took a big hit this year with their scores. I don't know if they switched curriculum. And everybody else had an outstanding year, comparatively. This is our school comparison, just to give you an idea. I always say that our elementary schools have completely different personalities. They also have completely different needs. So if you look at these, again, we're hovering like right around the 40th percentile with proficient and advanced, which is just unacceptable to me. Anything less than 50 is absolutely unacceptable, so I'm not even ready to say that we're ready to grow. We're ready to get to a place where we can grow. That was ELA, this is math. This is map breakdown by building. And can you tell the difference between our STAR scores and the MAP scores? They're significantly lower. So again, interestingly enough, our kids can do it. It just, when it comes time to the test, I don't know if it's the timer, if it's the tools that they're using, but they really underperform on the MAP test, so we're gonna work on that.
Sorry to stop you.
Yeah, no, please stop me.
Are we still in the graph where lower is better or higher is better in this case, correct?
No. That was just the first one. So this is a percentile of proficient advanced along the bottom. So if you look at like 5th grade here, you can tell that like Lewis 5th grade last year, we only had 22% that was proficient advanced. Unacceptable. So those kids are 6th graders now, so hopefully we can get them caught up. There's a different program there that's been acceptable. I'm just giving you kind of a clue as to how I look at the data moving forward. This is really, MAP data basically is for me to set specific goals. It's an autopsy for kids. It's an autopsy for teachers. But it gives me a really good indication on if our curriculum is set, if our buildings have the correct equity in place to make sure that every kid has an equal opportunity. So those are really things that I'm looking for. Troy, do you have something?
Is there still some element of COVID working its way through with this stuff?
What grade is Asher in? 4th grade? So it would have been last year third graders. That's the COVID bump that, I always remember it because Asher was in that bump. So I ask him at least 3-4 times a year, tell me again what grade he's in. That's the bump that we're gonna see. You're gonna have researchers researching those kids when they're 40 years old to see how that impacted them. Literacy is more than just learning how to read. It just sets you up for success for the rest of your life. And so it'll be interesting to follow those kids. Those kids currently are getting additional support, a lot of them with Title. I moved Title focus away with Dr. Everett's help away from kindergarten and 1st grade really into some of those upper grades for that reason. Because those are typically kids who fall through the cracks. Once they get past 2nd grade, it's like, well, you have to figure it out, and by the time they get to middle school, it's nearly impossible to try to get them the foundational reading skills. So that's the first year I've done that. This year, Troy is really focused out on 2nd, 3rd graders. Hopefully it works out. I'm getting feedback that it's been effective. That was a little unconventional, but that's kind of one of the reasons that I did it is for that COVID bubble. Any other questions? Our science scores are not good. We are currently writing curriculum for science this year. There's a big team of teachers that are looking at our standards. Science is largely process standards, meaning they want you doing bigger thinking, they want you working with your hands, they want you solving research problems, doing bigger ideas, bigger picture. And I think that we still are teaching science with worksheets, and biology hasn't changed how we teach biology in a long time. And so the team that we have in place doing the curriculum cycle now is really working on catching up to those standards and those process standards. So they've done incredible work. It takes a ton of time to unpack all of the standards that the state of Missouri has and try to come up with a plan on how to attack that.
Is that something we need to look at as our science and biology departments, see if there's a way we can improve those classrooms and everything for them?
They're actually doing that right now. So how a curriculum cycle works is they look at the standards, they create a plan, and then they say, Dr. Miller, these are the things we need in place to make sure our plan is happening. Then I go to Dr. Tomlinson, he gives me whatever I want, always, and then that's how we get it. I know. Typically, it hasn't let me down yet, so.
Well, I know we got one young lady that's applying to NASA this year as an intern. We've got several studying to be doctors,
yes,
nurses, and some of them behind in the biology and science department.
Yes. One of the things I am especially proud of is working with Dr. Everett when she was high school principal is having more opportunities for those upper level AP and college ready classes. I think out of all of the departments at the high school level, science is the one area where you can take the most college classes. Math is another one that really is good for our kids. I am not happy with any of our science scores. That's something that I'm working on, but I'm currently working on it now, building the curriculum, and so we'll get that in the hands of teachers. So you can look for
labs and everything.
Yes, yes. It's got to be focused more on hands-on stuff, like I said, with the process standards. How do you research a problem? How do you solve a problem? How do you run basically an experiment on your own? That's really what they're asking kids to do now on the MAP test, is how would you set up an experiment? And our kids don't have the skills to do that because it's not mirrored in the classroom. When you go to college, that's what they ask of a college kid, and our kids are not prepared to do that. So we're working on it.
Good.
So I always tell you the barriers to academics. Attendance is always an issue. Dr. Bullenmore's done an amazing job this year with attendance. Our administrators, our attendance is fantastic considering the year that we've had. Staffing, I can't say this enough. I didn't learn this until I learned it the hard way last year at Lewis Elementary. There is nothing more detrimental to a student than if I have to replace a teacher mid-year or I can't find one that's highly qualified to put them in there. There is nothing more important. No matter what I do, if I don't have a teacher in front of a kid, nothing I do matters. So that continues to be a focus. We talk about it in cabinet regularly. That's always my biggest fear, is do we have someone to replace a teacher that may leave or retire. Classroom management for some of our younger teachers, we focus on that with our mentoring programs. That can take up a lot of a teacher's time, so that's always a concern. Legislation, luckily, I don't think I have to write a handbook this year because nothing really, I know, I call it the trilogy. I think it's just going to be the trilogy of handbooks. I think that they're not going to come out with a new law this year, I hope. So hopefully we don't have to respond to that. Virtual learning continues to pull our students away. I know I sent Lewis a first grader that's going to be schooled virtual learning. I get them all the time, and that's another thing with legislation. They're making it easier and easier for any parent to pull their kid at any given time, and we really can't say anything about it, which is upsetting. So those numbers are bigger than they have before. I asked for increasing money to pay for that because that does come out of our revenue every year, and next year I'll ask for more because that keeps growing. Building changes, I will say that when I looked at Lewis's academics, their MAP scores, there's everything from last year, it made an impact that teachers were really worried about moving out of Lewis. It made an impact. Next year they're going to be moving in December, and so I'm trying to brace myself and be okay for that. We'll do everything in our power to make the move seamless and the transition super easy as we can on teachers. But that's always a worry for me. Anytime you change buildings, that's hard on academics. So, any questions that you guys have? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's why she did the
I know, right? You can leave it up there.
Oh, I won't take it
No,
off.
we'll let them roll.
Yeah.
All right, next up is approval of the Safe Haven Defense Safety Film Agreement. Dr. Bowling.
If it pleases the board, I'd like to present for your approval the Safe Haven Defense Safety Film. So this is something we've been talking about since probably last year at this time when we applied for and received the second phase of the safety grants. We didn't get the first phase. We didn't get what I asked, everything that I asked for in the second phase, but we did get $200,000. And so we are spending as far up to that as possible to try and secure as many of our building entrances and exits as possible. So this will allow us to add bullet resistant and riot resistant security laminate and exterior anti-graffiti film at Cornerstone, Elkhorn, and the ECC. Lewis, these things are already being worked on as it's being built, so we won't have to worry about that. This will ease the concerns of the glass in the hallways at Cornerstone. Those will have the resistant film on them, which will be very helpful. And then also at all the doors and exits that have glass on them, not only in the exterior, but also Cornerstone. We have some full glass doors, some half glass doors, so we're going to get those covered as well. So we've been working with Safe Haven. Jeff's done a great job working with them. With the blessing of your approval, they think they can start sometime in March, hopefully over spring break when it won't disrupt a lot of learning. So that's the plan there. I'll entertain any questions. If there's not any, I recommend the board approve this project as presented.
Second.
It's okay, so.
You can decide.
As long as it gets approved.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, Rick was first, Kaylin was second.
We'll give you the next one.
Yeah. It was like stereo. Any questions for Dr. Ballmer? Hearing none, all those in favor? And that passes 7-0. Thank you, sir. Next up, approval of Career Center enhancement grants. Mr. Ruby, were you just here asking for money?
I didn't ask for mine last time.
Oh, you
I told you it was coming this time.
It just seems like the only time we see him is when it's involved.
Oh, come on.
He's like my child.
I've been here every month. So I've asked for money every month. Up first, though, I was going to ask, talk to the board about a possible program expansion opportunity. So every year at the Career Center, we're always looking for different programs and things that we would like to add to the current program that we offer. And the way we kind of come about, like which programs maybe we should land on, is we try to collect as much data as possible from different sources. One of those is if you look at student ICAPs. If you look at our like the high school kids, they create an individualized career and academic plan. And if you look at those, 20% of them are interested in entering the health services field. So when you look at that data, and then we sent out some surveys to our sitting school kids and our kids about different programming opportunities, and we had over 150 kids said they'd be interested in some kind of physical therapy, sports medicine type area. So you have that data, so you're like, okay, well that's good to know. Well then the next thing to look is, well, is it actually needed? So you go to, if the Department of Higher Ed and Workforce Development has a lot of data about projections about where they see different fields. And if you look at they have the different levels. They have now, next, and later. So your now areas are like your service industry type jobs, ones that any kid can get. Your next ones would be with a little bit of training, a little bit of schooling, and then your later ones would be with like a bachelor's degree. And so what we look at is the next one, so that's kind of who we're preparing. So when you look at the merit data, it shows that the projections for 2030, they're going to see a 30% increase in the need for OTAs and PTAs, so occupational therapy assistants and physical therapy assistants. So when you combine all of that, you look and you see, okay, you have students that are interested in getting in the health services field, and then you have a program where you see, okay, there's an actual need in the Kansas City area. These are going to be occupations that they're going to be in need of in 10 years down the road. So it makes a lot of sense. So the next step for me then is like, okay, well, who's doing this already? So I talked to Raytown, Herndon Career Center, and then the Fort Osage. And they both have a sports medicine and physical therapy program, and it's their two most popular programs at those places. So they usually, they're pulling from the larger districts as far as their pool of schools. And every year at Raytown, it's usually about 200 kids apply for this class. So it's a very, very, very popular program, and I think they're seeing some great things come out of it. So then you kind of see, okay, well, what can you get out of that class? So the main thing for me is with any of our classes, a lot of it's exploratory, so it kind of exposes the kids to all the different possible avenues in that field. So with our sports medicine and physical therapy course, we hope it's designed to expose students or give them the ability to explore all the potential fields related to sports medicine. And then obviously working towards some kind of credential when they leave us. So I think, in my opinion, just from the research I've done, I think this would be a no-brainer for us to add, and I think we definitely have the interest of not only of our kids, but our sending school kids that would love to take this class as well. So I would recommend that the board approve the program expansion at the Career Center of a sports medicine physical therapy class.
What kind of credentialing would they have?
So the NASM, so you can get your certified personal trainer certificate. So that's a nationally recognized one. You can also do like your OSHA 10, BLS. There's a couple of different ones, like health safety ones. So get a couple stappables as well.
And what if they wanted to continue into college work?
Yeah, so obviously with any of our programs, we look for dual credit opportunities. So UCM, yeah. So we have kind of a kind of a couple different options of who we want to choose to partner with for our dual credits. So one thing we're looking at is like, okay, if we choose one place over another, are those credits going to be able to transfer as well? So, cause it's one thing is like, hey, well, you know, I'm paying for credits for my kid right now, but if she decides not to go to that place, are they going to transfer as easy as if we chose a different place? So those will all be things that we look into as well. Thanks, that's a good question.
Remind me currently for like healthy.
So we have our CNA program, and then we also have Fire EMT. So those are, all of those are two of our more popular, three of our popular programs. And I think if you talk to a lot of the people in the CNA, like we have a waiting list there, and I feel like sometimes we have kids that don't get into that program that really want to do it, because we have kids that want to get in some kind of health services field, and the only class we offer is that for that CNA class. So this will, I guess, will push more kids that are actually interested in this into this, and then might even open up more opportunities for people to take those CNA classes.
And that CNA class has been very helpful.
Absolutely. Fantastic class.
All right, entertain a motion.
So moved.
First by Rick,
Second.
second by Jill. Anyone else have any questions, concerns? We can just use the current waiting room and facilities.
Yeah, we have space now. Yeah, we have some things we can arrange around, and it's not a lot. There isn't a lot. Like that's the other thing great about it is it's a low cost to implement. So you'll see it when I ask. I got the money part's coming next. So
You foresee
Always,
a problem?
there's always a catch.
Yes, that's right.
Teacher-wise?
What's that?
You foresee a problem teacher-wise?
I've talked to a few people that are definitely interested, so put it out there that this is a potential, and I think in this field, like I think the hours that we offer are very attractive to people, so in a set schedule, so you're not pulled away at different random times or weekends, so yeah. That being said, though, yes, I can.
And maybe I saw this in there and I just don't remember it. When would you start this program?
Hopefully in August we'll do this. Yeah.
All right, hearing any other questions? First and second, all those in favor? And that passes 7-0. All right, since you messed up my schedule of situations, now we'll do the enhancement.
There you go. All right, so each year we come to you guys with some ask to help our programs maintain their industry standard. This year we have two current programs, and the one for the potential addition of the sports medicine and physical therapy. The first one in our carpentry and construction class, we need a new table saw. So we're looking to upgrade to more of an industrial style one. So the one that we currently have is pretty old. Also the pieces to replace it when things go wrong are getting harder and harder to find because of its advanced age. Also the ones that the one that we're exploring that we would like to purchase is also a lot safer. So it has kind of a mechanism that automatically turns it off if it's compromised. So obviously that definitely helps with student safety. So,
That's what I'm thinking for
yeah,
safety reasons.
that's right. Our goal is that kids come in with 10, they leave with 10. So this also, with the one we're looking to purchase also has the ability where you can make the angle cuts a lot easier and a lot more accurate. And then, as always, it comes with different storages opportunities as well, so you don't have to keep different things in different places. And then it'll also be large enough to where you can do full sheets of plywood, which when you're building some things, different structures, that definitely helps with being able to have that larger space. So that's the first one. And if you want to scroll down to that bottom page real fast.
Can I ask a question about that first?
Yeah.
Or you want to finish this?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Getting it, how is that compared to like the industry standard?
So anything that we come to you with is suggested to us from our advisory boards. So they're the ones telling us, hey, this is what you guys want to be using. So yeah, I'm not looking through like, hey, this look, So but yeah, so that's one of the things and that's required for the grant from the state is like, well, hey, why are you choosing this one? It's like, well, at our advisory boards, here's what they're recommending. So for that, the industrial cabinet saw, the one we found is $7,500. With the reimbursement from the state, about $56.25. So the cost of the district will be around $18.75. So that's for that. That's for the industrial cabinet saw. The next piece or pieces of equipment. You can scroll back up if you don't mind. It's for our HVAC program. So we're looking for some new heating and cooling equipment and some furnaces and different systems. I'd say about, Mr. McBee told me about half of the equipment was moved to our current building from here 20 years ago. So some of that stuff's outdated. Which is now isn't always a bad thing, because when you go out and these kids enter the workforce, they're not going to be working on brand new things. So it is good to kind of look at stuff that's dated. However, with the changing standard of what is in for industry, they are recommending that we do purchase some new systems so that our kids have the familiarity and the experience of working on new stuff and old stuff. So what I've worked with Mr. Rigby about and talked with him about is setting up kind of different stations to kind of model what it looks like in a household, like when I go into a residence, what's that space look like where your furnace is. And so that way we can have, hey, you have the new and then you also have the used. And so we'll kind of look to turn his shop more into like what it looks like out in industry, like in the field. And to do that, we're looking to purchase a few new systems. So can you scroll down? So the ones that are recommended to us from his advisory board, we're looking to purchase 6 of those. And each of those is $3,500, which is total cost of $21,000. Our reimbursement amount we're looking at is close to $16,000, so cost to the district around $5,300. And then the last 2 things are for the new program. When I talked to the 2 instructors that are currently doing this program at Fort Osage and Herndon and Raytown, they said the 2 main things that they wish they would have pushed for harder were some better athletic training tables, and that was basically as far as like furniture stuff. So the other stuff is just kind of your basic like tapes, bands. Don't need a lot of stuff for that, so nothing that would qualify for reimbursement from the state as far as big purchase for enhancement grants. So looking to purchase 4 athletic training tables. Cost $1,600 a piece on those. Reimbursement, since that's considered furniture, would be half. It's a 50-50. So we get back $3,200. So you're looking at a cost to the district of $3,200. And then the last one, an instructor MacBook, and that's the another 75-25 split. So altogether, if you approve all of the items, you're looking at an estimated what we would purchase. It would cost us about $36,700 to purchase. But the cost to the district after reimbursement would be $10,775. So with that, I recommend the board approve these matching funds for Career Center equipment upgrades and supplies.
So moved. First by Darren, second. Second by Kenny. Now the quick question on the tables, is that includes the $7,500 is including the storage, correct?
Yes. Yeah. It's all one big package thing. Yes.
Any other questions? All right. Hearing none. Seek approval for the full payment of the enhancement grants. And that passes 7-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Next up is approval to move our June board meeting to the end of the month. Dr. Collins.
So each year we ask that we move the June meeting closer to the end of our fiscal year, just so that we can close out our books and get everything set. I think we've done it every year that I've been here, but just wanted to get this on the books now so everybody knew that we can get out the information that June's board meeting will be later in the month.
June 25th?
June 25th, 2024.
Same
time, same location.
First by Caleb, second by Troy. Any questions, comments? You'll be reminded profusely between now and then. And you'll still call asking for it on the second Tuesday.
You guys are all going to be here, right?
It's a mandatory June meeting, or you don't get that last check. All those in favor? And that passes 7-0.
Just making sure people are paying attention.
Just making sure Trey's watching.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep him on.
All right. Thank you guys for attending this evening. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I say, we got invited to a few things. Chewingo, I think it is. Wonderful out of Elkhorn. Thank you. Miss Marsh, class 1, number 11. A couple other things. I was invited, Miss Newman at the high school leadership. Everett. there's anybody else up here. We went, it was stress and leadership, so all those kids got to hear about all my stress. I don't know if I'm invited back, but at the same time, I got a lot off my chest. Another thing is
free therapy for you.
Oh yeah, Trey's my other therapy during the day. Another thing is, this morning I involved in the POAC. Mr. Grayson, Miss Platt, she was a Smithville High School principal. This was at the middle school. It's about leadership as well. There was something I had on here, just a little bit about it. The curriculum focuses on empowerment. It's called People of All Colors, focusing on empowerment, proactive strategies. It's not a program about race, it's a program about people of all colors. It builds confidence in students through engaging activities, interactive sessions, and thought-provoking discussions. I was invited by Ms. Brooke at the middle school, Ms. Kimsey, Dr. Kaufman. It was a really great opportunity for a lot of the kids. It was a mix of all the kids in different levels where they're at in life, and I thought it was really good. My daughter was part of it. She's 7th grade middle school kid. It's a little rough sometimes, but
3 minutes can you hear about it?
I know. I'm just saying. But anyways, it was a very good program, and I thought it went really well. And I got a t-shirt.
You got a t-shirt.
Good. And I love being invited to things, by the way.
All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So.
First by
Second.
Second by all those in favor. 7-0. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Kenny Manley, her for mayor.
Again?
Never would I.